Welcome to Conscious Profits Unfiltered. This is your host, Sebastian Nam.
What up, fam? Today we're joined by Sydney Webb, the founder and CEO of Madeby, which is a line of good-for-you, vegan, gluten-free, non-GMO, low-sugar cookie dough and cookies made from the world's most powerful superfoods and adaptogens. I know, right? Like all the good things in a freaking insanely delicious cookie. Madeby cookies are gaining a ton of momentum and see lots of success right now, including a partnership with Equinox Hotels, Sprouts for Q1 of 2021, and now officially accepted into Whole Foods. Even more epic than these cookies themselves are Sydney's story and her serious health challenges that she experienced at an early age that led her to her magic creation that it is today. Tune in with us as Sydney shares her personal journey and how it led her to form a successful, impact-driven brand. Sydney, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be here, virtually at least.
Yeah, and it turns out we're actually 2 blocks away from each other.
We really could be almost face-to-face. This is probably the closest I've been face-to-face with many people over the last 7 months. So 2 blocks away, it's like we're practically right now.
I feel ya. Yeah, we just did a Friendsgiving with some friends, and everyone got tested and submitted their test like the NBA bubble style. It was like beautiful. It was like being around other humans was amazing.
I know. I think that's honestly kind of gonna be the way to go moving forward. Because I don't think anyone can take another however many months it's been now of isolation.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So Sid, I start out all my shows by asking my guests, when was your last oh shit moment? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Oh man. Oh God. Honestly, I feel like that's been kind of the last 8, 9, 10 months. Oh shit, in a good way or a bad way? Or
for you to choose. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I would say that my recent oh shit moment was that I realized we had ordered like 500 of these new custom boxes that were all the wrong size because I put centimeters and not inches. So I have these tiny, really cute little boxes that anyone needing any Madeby boxes, because we're gonna be giving away for donation. Yeah, that was fun. I was like, wow, this, large shipping box looks pretty small for like everything we ordered, but it's like these.
Everything was 0.33 too small.
Oh my gosh, it was pretty funny. I could fit maybe 1 cookie inside, but they were made for like 12 cookies, so not quite what we were looking for.
All right, so what was your last hell yeah moment?
Oh man, well, I just found out that we got into Whole Foods, so we'll be launching in Whole Foods early next year.
That's amazing.
Hell
Congrats.
Yeah.
That's a hell yeah. Absolutely. Hell yeah. So I'm really excited for you in the future of Madeby, and I know you recently featured on Veg News. Also a partnership with Equinox Hotels, which is really cool, and then you're launching in Whole Foods, and then hopefully in Q1 of next year also Sprout, right? Yeah. So before we get into that though, I want to get into your story, because your personal struggle to business success story is one of the most inspiring ones that I've ever heard of. So why don't we start at when you were playing to be a professional soccer player. So you want to
it's funny how things can take quite the turn. But yeah, I grew up playing soccer. I started playing when I was 5. Loved it, absolutely loved it. I played competitively. I played in every league I really could. And I played in high school. And when I was in high school, I got recruited to play at my dream college, which was USC. It was like my life seemed like everything was working out perfectly.
Perfect. What position?
I was a midfielder.
So you got stamina.
In my career, I've played everything at some point in time. When I first started, I was like, really tall. I hit my growth spurt probably before everybody else. So I was the goalie. Then I played forward, midfield, a little bit of everything. But I was recruited to play midfield at USC, and shortly thereafter, I started to feel, I will never forget, is October 26th, 2011. I started to feel like I was getting a flu. Maybe it was coronavirus. No, I'm just kidding.
The very first one.
I started to feel like I was getting sick. went to the doctor that next week, and they had no idea what was wrong. They had confirmed that I didn't have the flu and knew that it was probably just a virus. So they sent me on my way and said, sleep, take some vitamin C, water, all the things. So I did just that. The next week I was back there not feeling any better. And these symptoms not only remained for the course of a year, but they just compiled, and I, by the end of the year, was having these crazy stomach cramps. I was really fatigued. I had no appetite. I had lost about 50 pounds. And I was an athlete, so like I didn't really have any weight to lose.
That's crazy.
And finally, after, I was out of school like 3 out of the 5 days a week, just going to the hospital for tests and blood tests, ultrasounds, colonoscopy, endoscopy, like you name it, I've had it done. And according to all the tests, I was totally healthy, and it was all in my head, which it's so special now hearing other people's stories that when you really truly believe, I believe that we, have this deep knowing inside all of us that we really have to lean on and trust sometimes, which has guided me in so many places in my journey. But I really leaned on that and didn't let the doctors tell me that I was okay, because I knew I didn't feel normal. So a year or so later, after the very last test that I did, I found out that I had severe Crohn's disease, which was really the beginning of my health journey. I was immediately put on roughly 20 types of medication. I was put on of steroids and infusions and you name it. It was like I was taking one medication to like mitigate the side effects of another medication. It was just like this horrible domino cycle. And
you're still on the soccer team at this point?
No. So I was on the team, but I wasn't playing.
Got it.
Because I was, really just trying to recover.
Yeah.
So I had lost, over the next 6 months, I knew that the doctors told me I would never be active again, let alone play soccer at a competitive level. So that was passed on to both our high school coach and the USC coach. And unfortunately, they could no longer offer me the scholarship with my health I just had absolutely no idea how long I was going to be in that shape.
So let me ask you, when you lost your scholarship, which is something that you had been, it was like you said, it was a dream of yours. You wanted to play there and you had a scholarship to play at SC. Now you have this really crappy journey for a long time trying to figure out what in the world is going on. First of all, to me, it'd be more frustrating to not know that I want to know what's wrong, right? Not knowing is just
it's the worst,
right?
It's the worst.
So when you describe like your micro world, when you lose your scholarship, was it in fact everything at that point? Or was it more like, okay, no, it's not the end of the world. Like I'm more worried about this and that. Like what was that?
A great question. There were some mixed feelings, especially when I found out. I can remember almost the initial, conversation between my doctor and my mom. I'll never forget in the doctor's office when they came in. This was after a year of doctor appointments coming in and saying, nope, you're completely normal. It's all in your head. Before I was diagnosed, I was seeing a therapist because the doctors were convinced it was all in my head and that maybe I had an eating disorder. And that's why I was getting so thin and that it wasn't actually anything physical that was going on inside of my body. So when the doctor came in that day and said, you have severe Crohn's disease, this is something that is not curable. You're going to live with this for the rest of your life. You're going to be on XYZ medications for the rest of your life. You're never going to be able to be active again. That, I would say that I was almost relieved when I finally found out what was going on, because then I knew. But the second she said, you're never going to be able to play soccer again, or never going to be active at the level you were again, that's when it really hit me. Because up until that point, I, along with many other people, saw my doctors as the end all be all, and they're the person in the white coat. They know it all. I'm just this 16-year-old kid at that point. So I really thought like, wow, like that was quick. My whole life in a matter of a 5-minute conversation with my doctor just changed. It was, I would say it probably didn't really hit me until I left that appointment. I can remember I left school early that day to go to my appointment. My, coaches were kind of all waiting on the status to know what was going on, to know when I was coming back. So getting in the car and leaving that appointment, I can remember it all just kind of hitting me at once. Like, realizing that I was going to have to tell my coaches that I wouldn't be playing my junior and senior year, which I had just envisioned so much for myself. Like I already had envisioned my senior night and the pictures in the yearbook and my Letterman's jacket and all of the things.
That's so rough.
Right. It was
so rough
at that age.
So and then so that happened, and then you were just the very beginning of your journey of figuring out what in the heck was happening and how this was going to unfold. And I know that there was an instance at a coffee shop that was a turning point for you.
Yes. So a few years after I was diagnosed with Crohn's, like I said, I was initially put on all those medications. I was on that regimen for roughly 3 years. And since I didn't go to USC, I was at a community college. I was at a Starbucks one day in good old Manhattan Beach, my backyard at the time. And I met a man standing in line at Starbucks who asked me why I had ordered a tea instead of a coffee, which first of all is a random question. And two, like the things that someone could deduce from the answer to that question are probably a million. Like the answers are endless. But for people that do have Crohn's or IBS, you may know that coffee is just one of the many things that most people with Crohn's can't have. And it just so happens that this gentleman who asked me not only had Crohn's disease himself, but he was and is one of the best doctors for holistic healing for Crohn's and colitis in the United States, and now has a global practice. We still keep in touch. He's amazing. He lives in Santa Monica, not far. But essentially we met in line, ended up sitting down for a 2 to 3 hour conversation.
Wow.
He told me about his whole life story and how he had discovered holistic healing through honestly going through a very similar journey as myself, going the Western medicine route, not feeling good, hoping and knowing that there was, some other option. And after a trip to the Philippines, where he stayed with his family friends there, they were so blown away at the treatment that he was getting done for his gut. And, said, have you ever tried, adjusting the things you're eating? And he just never even heard of the concept before. This was, probably 15 years ago now. Health in Western medicine in general was just in a very different place. But they started cooking for him every single meal. Over the next couple weeks, he felt a little better. The next month felt a little better. And over the next few months, he ended up getting off of all medication. He ended up staying there to become a certified holistic doctor for Crohn's and colitis, and then came here to the United States to carry out his certifications and now run his global practice.
And so you ended up going through his whole process, I assume, right? And you started doing all these things for your diet.
Yeah, and the interesting things with Crohn's is that with a lot of other types of gut issues, our bodies are so smart. I think that one of the issues with our current health system is that people think that when you're sick, your body is flawed or there's something wrong with you. But when you're sick, your body's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's fighting off something that's in your body. It's trying to protect you. So
it's communicating with you as well.
Yes, exactly. So when there's inflammation in the gut, aka Crohn's disease, so much of our Western medicine treats the inflammation, not the source of the inflammation.
Right.
And his regimen was just, a completely 360 view. It was just totally different.
That's great. So you started doing all of these things and you started feeling better. Yeah. You started feeling back to normal. You started feeling back in health. And then what?
Over the next month, I got off of all medication myself, got in the best shape of my life, was feeling incredible. At that time, I had been applying to universities because I was getting ready to transfer. And I still wanted to go to USC for sports broadcasting, so I could still be in the realm of sports, even if I wasn't playing sports. And I got into USC for sports journalism, transferred there, was just, again, so happy that, you know, even if I couldn't play soccer here, at least I'm here. I get to still do what I want to do to an extent. And within my first semester at USC, you know, I had gone in there in the best shape of my life. I was working out twice a day. I was eating so healthy. I was off all medication. I felt so good. And my first semester there, I just got really involved in school. I moved into a sorority house. I was just like doing all of the things. And often with Crohn's, being stressed can trigger a relapse, like where all your symptoms come back kind of full blown. Yeah. So I noticed I wasn't feeling so hot anymore. So I went to the doctor. They ran some tests to figure out what was going on. And the results came back that I was not having a relapse and that I had colon cancer.
Wow.
Yeah.
What does that describe? What is that? What is it like to hear that word cancer when you're that age? Especially at that age? How old were you?
I was 21.
Like, that's just like, you know, like, what was that like?
It was scary, but it would have been very different had I not gone through my experience with Crohn's disease. Because since I had done, you know, at that point, so many of the things that the doctors told me I would never be able to do, like, you know, you're going to be on this medication your whole life, you know, got off all the medication. You're never going to be active again. Like, I'm working out more than I ever have before.
Right.
And, you know, I had already proved so many things that they had said wrong through, you know, going more of the holistic route. So I knew that whatever my healing journey was going to look like, I wanted to do whatever I could holistically to, you know, still help myself. And I also think too, with cancer, my aunt who just passed a year or so ago, she had ALS, which normally people with ALS are given like a 5-year lifespan. It's kind of like pretty standard, but she lived 12 years because she had the most incredible spirit and support system. She was just, I mean, prior to her diagnosis, she was a positive person, but post-diagnosis, she was like the most joyful person I had ever known. I mean, still to this day, like her spirit, anyone will tell you, like she would light up a room. So I just had a very different idea of what healing would look like for me. I knew, you know, if I was going to have to get chemo and radiation, like I wanted to do it dancing around. Like I didn't want to sit there and, you know, and allow myself to be sick. I think so much of it is a mind, body, soul experience.
Yeah. That's so great that you had already, I mean, gone through that experience and you were convinced like, hey, whatever life throws at me, I'm going to get through this. So did you end up having to do chemo?
No. So a week after I was diagnosed, this is a slightly, I mean, the whole journey, I guess, is interesting, but something that's maybe less common about my journey than it is for other people is that when I was diagnosed, I decided, they told me I had a 3-month period between the time I was diagnosed and the time I was supposed to start chemo and radiation. And I decided in that moment, I was at that appointment by myself. That
challenge accepted.
Huh?
You were like, challenge accepted.
Right? But I decided that I wasn't going to tell anyone. So I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't tell a soul. Because going back to what I said before, I know just so much of it is a mind, body, soul experience. And I knew that if other people were worried, I would worry. And then it would become so much more of a reality where almost as if like, you know, if I'm the only person that knows and I know I'm doing all the things I can for myself, at the point where I need to get treated, if that happens, then I will tell them. But like, then it's going to be happening and we don't have to spend the next 90 days just like killing ourselves over it.
Okay.
Exactly. So, so that week, the next week, I was working a part-time job as a brand ambassador course, my job didn't know. Nobody knew. And I was called to cover this event in downtown LA called the Good Fest. I was like, passing out product and stuff. And there was this woman who I met at the Good Fest. Her name is Liana Winter-Gray. She is an Australian author who wrote a book called The Earth Diet. And it's all about how she had healed her lymphatic cancer by going plant-based and taking a class of herbs known as adaptogens.
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 We're going to be talking about adaptogens.
Yeah, adaptogens they're the most magical plants in the whole world.
It sounds like adapting to something. What's like what's the 101 definition?
That's really, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Adaptogens they are a class of plants, herbs, that help the body adapt, hence their name, to various stressors in the body, whether it's physical, emotional, physiological, etc.
Wow.
Essentially, adaptogens help your body by working with your adrenal system that regulates cortisol. And people, I think, on the very base level, we know cortisol makes us stressed or feel stressed. But what we don't realize is that cortisol, it's really like pressing the start button on every single one of your systems. Why being stressed causes more inflammation, or, really like pouring fuel on the fire for cancer or any other type of illness in the body. It's not just the emotional stress, but it's all of the stress in the body.
Why aren't we all taking adaptogens like all the time?
That's what I'm saying. So that was really, I was fascinated because, prior to meeting Liana, I had been an athlete my whole life, and I was pretty much plant-based, but I wasn't hardcore vegan or anything. And I was shocked that as someone who thought I knew a lot about health, I had been tracking my macros previously. So I thought I knew it all. I had never heard of them before. So I was shocked and of course skeptical. I mean, I think it's only natural for people to be that way. I mean, with so many things, but especially it seemed almost too obvious. Like if it works for her, why is this, the first time I'm hearing about it? So that very same night I went home, did a ton of research, and started to find, even a lot of the research publications that are publishing all the things now about COVID, had so much research on adaptogens being used, both solo and in tandem with treatments for cancer, Alzheimer's and dementia, liver disease, heart disease. I mean, you name it, there's adaptogens being used for it.
But doctors aren't, prescribing, recommending usually. It's
no.
Got it.
Yes.
So it's always going to be like either a holistic doctor or somebody else.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So what are these, like pill form? Hey guys, I just want to remind you, if you want to find more content like this, you can visit sebastiannaum.com. That's Sebastian, NAUM.com. You can also get a ton of other marketing resources from myself and my agencies, ranging from SEO to social media, influencer marketing, branding, web development, and more. Again, that's sebastiannaum.com. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the show. So they're herbs, like how do you take them? Do they? Yeah.
So adaptogens, I would say that maybe one of the more common ones that people may be familiar with is like matcha. Matcha green tea actually falls into the category of an adaptogen. Some other popular ones that I'm seeing more now are ashwagandha or maca. People for sigmatic, they're all things adaptogens. But they really focus on the four main adaptogenic mushrooms, reishi, chaga, cordyceps, and lion's mane.
Right.
And each adaptogen, while they all help with stress, they have their own specific healing benefits. So for example, some adaptogens are incredible for things like having anti-cancer properties. Some are really great for mood or focus, memory. So also going through, what's going to be best for healing was also a process for me.
Sure.
I thought that taking them in a powder form for myself would be maybe a little bit more familiar than a tincture, because, I had been doing protein powders. I was like, I can mix this in my shake. This is a little bit more easy to use. So I ordered relatively, I think it was about 10 to 12 different kinds. I just kind of threw all the things I could into my shopping cart and checked out and got them a few days later, starting mixing them into everything I eat and drink, smoothies and oatmeal. They did not taste good at all,
Okay.
but I really didn't care. I was just taking them for the healing benefits. And I took them for the next 3 months. I went totally vegan, felt really good through my healing process. And I went to the doctor 3 months later. They did the tests again, checked the polyps that had been cancerous, and the results came back that I was completely cancer-free.
Wow. That's amazing. How
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm telling you, adaptogens, they really are the future. It's been so powerful now over the last 5 years,
Yeah.
seeing how popular they are becoming. There's still nothing like,
Correct.
they're nothing like a protein powder or CBD, but they're on their way.
So you started testing out different ways to consume these adaptogens because they just didn't taste good. And so I know you've told me in the past that you were even like, I got to get these to my parents. So you were trying to figure out, you were tricking them into how to like eat these, right? And this is started the journey of Madeby, right?
Yeah, adaptogens are not delicious. And I after my experience healing, even through my experience healing, through that 3 months, every free second I had, I was reading about them and had the same question you did, that if they worked for all these other people, why aren't other people taking them?
Yeah.
And it is something that is niche. A lot of people don't know about them. They're not in a easy to deliver, craveable format. And I knew that if I was going to get my parents on the adaptogen bandwagon so that they could experience all these healing properties, it had to be in a way that they would want to consume them. I knew that, I saw them every day forget to take their vitamins. I'm like, I'm not going to make something that they're just going to forget to take. But being a sweet tooth lover myself, I wanted to make something that I would really enjoy and that other people would enjoy, that maybe were also in their own healing journey. Something that was made of all the superfoods I was eating throughout my healing journey, and somehow turn that into something delicious and then infuse it with these powerful adaptogens so that people could heal their bodies while still eating things they loved instead of, having to make that sacrifice.
That's amazing. I love that you said into a craveable format. Not edible or somewhat, easy to have. Because I always think, I think powder form too, or pill or whatever. And so you created not just a cookie.
It's not just a cookie.
Effing bomb ass cookie. It's so effing delicious. Like I can't even express. It's ridiculous. Like I'm like, this is not healthy. Don't lie to me.
Best compliment always when people are like, there's no way this can be good for you. I'm like, that 1.5 years of recipe testing in my kitchen paid off, man.
So effing good. So you were able to put these adaptogens. So what adaptogens are in your cookies?
Oh, God.
And essentially, so there's a lot. Yeah. A lot going on.
So we use roughly 2 to 3 different adaptogens in each flavor. Our chocolate chip flavor has maca and ashwagandha, and that cookie is for mood boosting. We have our focus cookie, which has lion's mane and Goku. It's incredible for creativity. And then we also have a cookie for immunity and all things longevity, and that has 4 adaptogens in it. It has maca, ashwagandha, rhodiola, and chaga.
Talk about bringing some value to the world, Sid.
Right?
You like eat my cookies, de-stress, increase immunity, increase focus.
Best of all worlds.
Absolutely amazing. That's so cool. That's so cool, Sid. So obviously the whole basis of your cookies come from this incredible struggle that you had to go through. Mm-hmm. But how lucky are we though, seriously, that through your struggle that you had to bring this amazing product to the world. And I do encourage anybody listening to try these amazing cookies, but really they really are good for your health. And I'm assuming you're going to recommend consuming adaptogens in different forms, right?
Of course,
Yeah.
I mean, the cookies have an entire daily dose per cookie.
They do.
Sometimes people will ask, like, well, if I have 2 cookies, and like, am I going to overdose? But adaptogens, by definition, you can't overdose on them. You would have to eat, 12 cookies to maybe feel a little bloated. Then you probably would feel full way before then. But yeah, no, they're non-toxic and you're really good to go.
That's amazing. Well, if I eat 12 of anything, I usually feel a little funky, and I'll do that sometimes. I will do that. So Sid, talk about some conscious aspects of the brand too, outside of the fact that it's entire, essentially, the DNA of the company and the brand is to bring good, to people's health. But is there sustainability aspect of it? I know you're going to be planning on doing some stuff with hospitals. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so we are actually reformulating our packaging right now. We're putting our cookie dough into recyclable paper pints. So, they're going to be made out of recycled paper and also recyclable. I mean, the eco-friendly aspect of it was so important to me from day one. I believe that if you're doing something good for the world, it actually also needs to be good for the world, not just the humans inhabiting it. So that's always been like a staple for us. All of the things that we ship in are recyclable or recycled in some way, shape, or form. So we're really, really focused on that. And over the coming years, we're actually working with a company called Impact Snacks to not only reduce our carbon footprint altogether, but become a carbon positive company, and actually, really do good for the world and for the environment. And then also we are, we're trying to partner with different hospitals, first in the LA area, then nationwide, to replace these less healthy options in both like hospital cafeterias and to, the patient menu within the hospitals. One thing that I've just always found shocking when I'm there is that still, here we are in 2020, there's just such a disconnect between what goes in your body on a daily basis and medicine. And seeing, I won't mention any brand names, but some really sugar-filled junk Latin, everything is processed and chemically, sterilized ingredients. It's really disheartening. So being able to bring that comfort of a cookie, something delicious that people do love, and not having to replace it with a plate of broccoli for someone to heal is really important, because it is really a mind, body, soul experience. And if you want it to be sustainable, then making it enjoyable is half the battle.
That's absolutely half the battle, more than half the battle, making it enjoyable. And it is crazy how in hospitals, like, you literally see some of the most old, like, sugar filled, like, tons of chemicals and like, it's like, this is literally what they're feeding people in the hospital. What in the world?
I tell you, it's
crazy.
my life mission. That's really the end goal, is to be able to reform things like that.
That's great. That's great. That really does bring change. So that's a big deal. I know, Sid, that you've been going through a growth stage, and so you've been doing hires, and it's super exciting, right? Because you're like, oh, what a great place to be. I'm doing hires. I'm growing. Great. Like, we're scaling our company. We're bringing in profits, but the truth is that when you have a small brand or a growing brand and a conscious brand, though, that has to translate into the hires. How important is it to make conscious hires in that challenge?
It's everything. I mean, that's something that I've read a lot about. I asked so many mentors of mine a lot about, and other founders, because, the people that work within your company, for your company, are what makes your company your company. It's so important to me that not only every employee truly deeply believes in the mission, but that they can live it and breathe it themselves. That everyone we bring on is a deeply, deeply good-hearted person who wants to do all these amazing things for the world, and really believes in the power of health and adaptogens and, plant-based holistic healing. And I'm so grateful to say that we've found those people, and there's so many of them out there. I think that's, it hasn't been easy for us to choose between people, because there's so many amazing candidates out there. It's honestly been really, really cool to just, to see so much good. It's like, oh my gosh, everyone's so amazing. It's hard to pick.
That's so awesome. That's so important to have everyone that you're hiring, all the new hires, people in your company, to really live the mission the same way that you live it. They may have not had your experience, but to really embrace it, right, and really put it forward. And that's really what's going to help the the company grow. And the more your company grows, obviously, the more good you can bring to people's health, and maybe ideally even reform in terms of, the foods that are out there in places like hospitals, for example, right? So Sid, you're definitely an awesome example of a conscious leader. What do you think are two of the most important traits that a conscious leader must embody today?
Oh man. I think that leading with gratitude. I was going to say leading with heart, but when you lead from a place of being grateful for anything and everything and taking it all in stride, I think it's absolutely essential. Because though we are a growing brand and, things look great on the outside, it doesn't mean that, there aren't still struggles going on every day, but being able to find gratitude for that and find the silver linings, it's crucial to being able to still move forward with that same mindset. And I think too is being unwavering in your beliefs. I think that that's something that I've struggled with on this journey because, as you come to meet people who have a lot more experience than you do, or, have had a certain level of success, it's really hard to not be persuaded sometimes to do X thing because it, could create X result. And I've just always believed, I have such a deep-seated passion in doing this for a very specific purpose. And I wouldn't say I've ever been tempted, but it's hard to, still maintain your clarity when there's so many outside voices. So staying true to that is so important.
That's beautiful, especially when there's so many other people on the outside seeing this huge potential for growth.
Right.
And maybe it's so easy probably to just sacrifice the mission and the purpose for fast growth. It's that shiny object. And so being unwavering.
So true.
That's awesome. And that's, you said two beautiful things. So thank you so much for that, Sid. Where can people follow you and follow Madeby?
On Instagram and really on all platforms, we are at Madeby Foods.
Awesome. And I'll be including all of the links too, as well, obviously. So, well, thank you so much, Sid. I loved having you on. You're an epic content leader. So please keep doing you, and I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. It takes a lot to put these things together, but I truly love doing it. If you enjoyed this episode or the show in general, and you listen to it on audio podcast, please take some time to give it a review. It would really mean a lot to me. And if you watch the video, please go ahead and just click subscribe and share it with somebody that you think would like it. It would really mean the world to me, and it helps keep the show alive. Visit sebastiannaum.com for more content, and follow me on Instagram at sebnaum. That's SEBNAUM. Thanks again for spending your time with me. I know it is valuable. I hope you have a great rest of the day and week. Till next time.